Hey, y'all. Okay, so we will be painting not necessarily this design live, but we will be painting this technique live. Okay, so I'm just going to lay this right here, right now, while we are getting set up. How are y'all doing? So if you're catching the live, I want you to say hello and tell me where you're watching from. And if you're home, this is kind of later in the day for me. From here on out for a little while, I'm going to be painting later in the day. And I hope that's okay. I hope I don't mess up your schedule or anything. But we're gonna be painting later in the day on Mondays and Thursdays, and not every Monday and Thursday, just whenever I can try to make it here. But we're gonna be painting later in the day. But if you're catching the replay, I want you to put hashtag replay. So no matter what time you can catch, just go ahead and tell me if you're here or if you're catching the replay. So like I said, we're not going to be painting this actual design. We're going to be painting the concept of this design. I don't necessarily want to dive into this exact design only because a lot of the elements in here are tied into a paint party that I just taught this week. So I don't want to like spoil any surprises, especially for that border. That border was kind of tough to paint. So I want to save that for my paint party goers. But we hold on, baby girl, hold on. Let me get my stuff lined up. Here's your Pete the cat.
Yeah, thank you. I almost gonna scream about it.
You were almost gonna scream. I think you were screaming about it. We're gonna tape our workspace down. Okay. So I'm gonna be painting in my mixed media pad. I hope this. Yep. Hold on, I'm gonna cover this real quick.
Mommy, I need some paint.
Hold on, baby. I haven't even gotten my paint yet.
Oh yeah.
So we've got our a piece of mixed media paper out, and I'm gonna paint the background. We're gonna paint the pine needles. We're just not gonna paint the mason jar, right? Like everything that we're doing here, you can do on that mason jar. I'm just not necessarily painting the mason jar itself. So if you're wondering where that mason jar came from, hold on. I'm all discombobulated here. Just a second. I'm gonna get my life together. I promise. There we go. Much better. Okay. I just like to have a nice clean edge whenever I paint in my mixed media pad, because a lot of times, even if it doesn't pertain to a Bible verse, I will throw it in my Bible for Bible journaling later.
Mommy, I'm making a video too on your phone. So cool, right?
Oh, it is so cool. Let's not do that.
Aww.
My phone's almost dead. I'm sorry. But you're making a video here with me.
I can't.
Well, come here. Say hi. Say hi.
Okay. Hi.
A lot of people have said that they've missed Raylan, so painting later in the afternoon is probably going to get you your Raylan fix.
Mommy, I gotta get my paint.
Hold on, baby. I haven't even gotten my paint yet.
Oh, yeah.
So for the colors that we're going to be using on this, so let's go over that real quick. We're going to be using Hauser Medium, Light Lime. You could also use like Pistachio Mint. I will prefer Light Lime this time. Okay, my daughter is definitely just taking over here, but that's okay. Okay, we're on a letter. Babe, you're painting back here. You're painting back here, remember? So she has created her own little sketchbook out of some netbook paper, and she has been begging me to paint her Pete the Cat book. That's a storybook character that they're learning about in school this past week.
We're not learning about it, we're reading.
We're reading it. Okay, so they're reading it, and Pete the Cat is the character of the book that she wrote as well. So for our background, we're just gonna put like I said, let's go over the colors: light lime, Hauser medium. I might throw some leaf green in there, raw umber, milk chocolate, and some storm gray. So let's go ahead and start painting. Let's base coat our background. Let me get my paint rag ready.
Mom,
I don't have my apron on, so I need to keep it very clean today.
Is this called Pete the Cat?
Pete the Cat. All right. Don't put it in my workspace, though. So we're just going to take a wide, baby, you're putting it in my workspace.
Hey.
Just put it back here, okay?
All right.
All right. So we've got a brush. We're just going to base coat the entire background. All right, if you notice, I started over here and then came to my painter's tape.
Okay.
Came over here to my painter's tape because I didn't want to oversaturate my tape. And I'm going to attempt to not paint into the tape because I do not want to. Baby. Black. You're not allowed to use black till you're completely done. Black is the last color. Oh, that's right. Pete the cat is kind of black.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now, sometimes I always like blue.
You want a light blue?
Yeah.
All right. You're not getting all the colors all at once.
Okay.
Try not to get it on my table too.
All right. Oh, I forgot my paintbrush.
Oh, your paintbrushes are right here.
Oh, thanks, Mom. They're all dry.
And here's your paint water.
Thank you.
This shall be fun. I'm not used to not having her sit right here by my side, but I have a little glimpse into my world. I have all my laundry sitting right here waiting to be hung up. I have it all over the back of a chair. And that's the chair that she normally sits in when she paints with me. And I haven't put it up yet. Normally it's put up by now. So I haven't put it up yet. I think I'll do that after I get done painting live. Once I get dinner started, I'll probably start hanging clothes as dinner's kind of simmering. Hey, Sharon. Hey, Anna. And Sandra and Lori and Nicole. How are y'all doing? Hey, Cindy. Good afternoon. Watching you all at the doctor. Cindy, I swear, every time we're live, I swear you're at a doctor's appointment.
Well, she's at the doctor's appointment.
Right. She goes, I care.
No, I said I went there.
Oh, I went there. Yeah, she went to, well, not recently, but she has gone to the doctor.
Yeah, and I got a shot.
Yes, my helper is here today. Yes, she had to get a shot. It was her vaccinations. It's her, what was the last one? The tetanus and something else. She had 3 shots that day, and the poor baby, I felt bad for her. So this is Storm Gray. We're just putting a flat base coat on here. And then we're going to come back in with just a little bit of a darker color and kind of just deepen the edge just to create a dramatic border. Now this edge that I'm about to do is not part of the door hanger design that I've created, that we're kind of mocking this off of. If you're just now hopping on and wondering what we're about to paint, we are going to do a pine needle tutorial.
I need more, Mommy.
What do you need more of?
Blue.
The blue?
Yeah.
We're about that pine needle tutorial that everyone was requesting. It is kind of intimidating just from first glance, but I promise you, once you get the hang of it, it's a pretty easy and actually a kind of a therapeutic for a paint technique because it's just one little brush stroke. So if you have a friend that saw the design and was like, I wonder how she paints that, if you want to SHRE the video to spread it out into the interwebs so that they might see it, I'd be ever appreciative of it. All right, we're just blow drying this so that we can do a second coat. This is a little patchy. We don't want it to be patchy. Well, we weren't to the bed yet.
No rag.
Oh, here, you can use mine too. We can share. Just be careful not to splash water everywhere.
I got some more makeup, but I need something. Oh, no.
Alrighty, so let's do a kind of a half a coat. We're just fixing our patchiness. We don't necessarily need a full coverage coat. We're not going to use near as much paint on this coat as we did the last coat. All right, this is the boring part of painting. And yes, I know. Lately I've been trying to have everything base coated before I ever hit the live button, but I kind of wanted you to see how I set up my mixed media paper for whenever I'm painting on a loose piece of mixed media paper. Okay. That should be good. Now there's no shading in this one. So if you've been kind of, what's the matter? What happened?
The face is too big.
That's okay. Just improvise. Make a bigger face.
No.
Just make his face. Instead of making his whole body, this page only has his face on it. What?
Stop.
I'm sorry, my creative opinion does not matter. This shall be fun. This shall be fun. Hey, Melissa. Melissa, this one's just for you, boo. Melissa has been on me about painting this tutorial. Now, we won't be painting the actual door hanger, Melissa. I'm just going to show you the steps on how to get that pine needle look. There's a few different ways. It just depends on how bushy you want it to look or how streamlined you want it to look. All right, this is getting pretty dry. All right. So just for giggles, let's see if I can find where I put it. It's right here. I've got this stencil sitting out. So on this design here, of course, Raylan closed it. On this design here, there's some snowflakes in the background. You see those little peekaboo snowflakes? We're just going to stencil them. Instead of, racking our brain or really going over the top, we're just going to stencil those snowflakes in. What's the matter, my baby?
Mommy, I think Mama needs a blow dryer.
It's okay. Here. Here's the blow dryer. Bring me your book.
Mommy, I got it.
But you're gonna, okay, go for it. Knock yourself out.
I got it.
This is fun, Daddy. Okay, so we're going to stencil. I've got this makeup sponge that I've already used once, and just because you used it once doesn't mean it's garbage. Just snip off the dried paint and throw away the trash. So you have a fresh makeup sponge. Now, I like to use the ones from the Dollar General, not the Dollar Tree. They are not created equal. The ones I like to use feel like memory foam. They don't feel like I cannot feel my fingertips through. Like I can't feel my fingertips touch. I cannot feel my fingertips touch. The Dollar Tree ones are like paper. They're awful. They have a purpose, I'm sure, but it's not to stencil with. I'm going to take just a little bit of white to the existing gray that I already have. I'm going to ghost it out, which just means I'm just going to add a little bit of white to it. I'm not going to try and match another color gray to this. I'm just going to take my existing gray and make a lighter shade of it. And this will get me more of like, in my mind, this is more like a wallpaper. It's like a wallpaper on sitting behind your Christmas tree. And I'm just going to stencil. Now, I got the stencil from Hobby Lobby. It's the Show Offs brand. You do not need this particular stencil, but if you're wondering which one I'm using, it's from the stencil aisle at Hobby Lobby. It's just their snowflake. It's like I said, the Show Offs brand, which are pretty decent stencils. They get the job done. Thank you, ma'am.
Mommy, just gonna keep it right there.
Just ask me when you need it, okay, baby?
Right.
So I'm just going to lightly tap with little pressure and very little paint on my sponge. What?
It wasn't closing that way.
Y'all, we're having an after school moment. Hey, look. There you go. It's how. It's just, we're tired. We're tired. She literally
I'm
just
not
got off.
tired.
Nope, not tired at all. Just got off the bus.
Stop.
Hey, did you tell them about the award that you got the other day? Stop. So let me tell you a little story. She comes home Friday, and she goes, "Mom, you weren't."
Wait, Mom, guess what?
What?
Tomorrow, I'm going to school, and guess what?
What?
I'm going to need toys.
You get to bring a toy to school tomorrow?
Yes.
Which one are you going to take?
Candy.
You think so? All right.
Every single teacher tells us which we take.
So last Friday was their assembly award, an award assembly for the 9 weeks. And Raylan struggles in school, so her brother did too. I'm not a big stickler for grades, especially knowing going through the journey with my son. He struggled with grades. We just decided that grades were not how we black make a very pretty purpley gray. Yes, it does. We just decided that we were not going to let grades be the only thing that determines our growth. Yes, they can be one factor, but no, they are not the factor. Not every student has good grades. And just because they don't have good grades doesn't mean that they're not succeeding. My son was just, he had situations where, I mean, grades were never going to reflect his actual growth. He was actually learning. He was doing a great job. And he just did not do well with tests and reading was a struggle for him, but he was comprehending. So that, I mean, whatever, however he got there, and he's a great student now. He doesn't have anybody really assisting him in anything. But for her, we're kind of going through the same steps with her. So I'm kind of, I lived and I learned, and I'm using what I learned through helping him with helping her just a little bit faster, just a little bit at a time. And so she comes home and she goes, Mom, why weren't you there? And I go, wait, what are you talking about? You weren't at the gym. And I'm like, what was at the gym? She goes, all the other parents were there. And I'm like, for what? And she goes, Mom. You see, just imagine that, Mom. And I'm like, what? So I was like, tell me about it. Tell me all about it. Did I do this one yet? Hold on. No, I have not. And so she goes, well, everybody went. Everyone's mom and dad were there. And we got to go up in front of our classes for special reasons. And guess what? And this is exactly how she tells me. She goes, and guess what? I got to go up, but I didn't get to keep it because they spelled my name wrong. And I'm like, they spelled your name wrong.
That wasn't the one.
What?
It was the gray one.
It was the gray one. Yeah. They spelt my name wrong. So there's our snowflakes. Okay, we're gonna let that dry. And so I was like, well, what was it? She goes, I don't know, but it was for me. And so she goes, I didn't get to keep it because they had the wrong name on it. So I was like, okay. So I go through her binder, and there's an attendance award, and her name's not spelt wrong. So I'm just like, I don't know what this joker is talking about, but I'm proud of her anyways. So I'm never expecting an AB honor roll. If we get it, we're gonna be pleasantly surprised, and we're gonna celebrate nonetheless. But like, an award is award, whatever. So I said, look at this, you got this, that's amazing. And so later on, I'm on Facebook, which I hardly ever do on my personal page. And I'm scrolling, and the school uploaded a bunch of pictures. And I'm looking, and I'm just like, that is my child with an award, and it does have the wrong name on it. And I'm like, my brain is just racing. My brain is just racing. I was like, so one of two things has happened here. They did get the name wrong, and they allowed her to accept it with the wrong name. But this is not just misspelled. She told me her name was misspelled. I'm going to grab a round brush, kind of a medium round brush, probably about a 6. And so I'm just sitting there going, okay, well, maybe that is true. But that is a child's name. This is not just Raylyn, not spelled RAYLYNN. It is not, it is spelled wrong, but there's a whole different last name there. Hey, Marie Mosley. Maybe they fixed it later. Well, hold on. Don't jump the gun. Don't. Oh, I shouldn't have said that. Facebook doesn't like that word. Don't skip steps yet. Okay. So finally I just like, so either they did get the name wrong, and they were just like, we'll fix it and replace it, but we'll still let her accept it. But the more I thought about it, that's just a whole nother child's name. So I was telling my husband, I was like, I wonder if she just heard Raylyn, and because she had heard all these other children's names, and she just, she just got excited, and she just ran up there and accepted some other child's, like she just stole someone else's spotlight.
Okay, the blow dryer.
The blow dryer. Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a medium and a dark brown on my brush. I've got both on my brush. So this is milk chocolate and burnt umber, or raw umber. They're both on my brush. And I'm just going to some twigs in there, okay? Now I've got really good pressure down here because this is going to be my base. And I'm letting up on the pressure as I get to the point. These are coming to points, okay? These are going to be both tree, like branches of a branch, right?
Mommy, am I the illustrator now?
You are an amazing illustrator. If you're done, you're done.
I'm not done.
Don't yell at me.
But I'm not done.
Okay, but it doesn't require yelling. You say, hey, Mom, I'm not done. I've still got another page.
Mommy, another page.
Okay, well then paint your page. Okay, so we're gonna paint this as a branch. Let me see. Let me pull my example up. These do not have to be identical. You can definitely freehand this. Okay, so we've got this one branch that's kind of peeking this way, and you can have multiple branches working off of this. Okay, so we're gonna have this as one major branch, and it just has multiple branches coming off of it. These do not have to be perfect. This is just where your pine needles are going to have a home. Okay, you're just mapping out their home. But we're also going to have some peekaboo ones as if other branches are coming in. We just don't see the whole branch. Okay, so I'm actually going to turn this going this way now. I know you can't really see the brown. That's okay. We don't need to. We are going to add a little bit of light buttermilk to our dirty brush. We're not going to clean our brush. I like the Stole the Spotlight version. Everybody does. So I told my friends about it over the weekend. And I was like, y'all, I don't want to steal her thunder. She's just so proud. So we're just going to let her live in the world of where she got this award. Because I really did think that she just heard her name and she just jumped up there. And so I'm sitting there. I'm just adding a little highlight. Just very ever so lightly. Just adding just a little bit of highlight. This is still wet. And I'm just, with a dirty brush, I'm just adding in a little bit of light buttermilk just to give a little bit of light to the branch. And if you feel like you've added too much, go back with your browns and go right back over it and tone it down. You cannot mess up tree bark. It's messy. It's there's no 2 inches, much less 2 branches. 2 inches of a branch, much less 2 branches that look exactly the same. It's organic. So, okay, so there we go. Now, here's the 2 ways that you can do your pine needles. Let me finish my story and then we'll get to the pine needles. So we come up with these 2 scenarios in our head. We share it with friends, and all the friends are just like, how hilarious. And they all voted, oh no, this is definitely what your child did. Because they just know Braylon. They're like, oh, she did this. And she has just told herself this is the truth. And so we're just like, you know, it's funny. We're all going to laugh about it one day when she's 30. It's hilarious. So I text the teacher this morning because I'm just like, I can't handle it. I got to know. So I send the teacher the picture of my child and the wrong name. And I'm like, please tell me the story behind this. Because we've got bets out. We're trying to figure out what really happened. Here's Raylynn's story. Here's the one we kind of fabricated. What happened? And she goes, oh, no, she really did win that award. We did accidentally put the wrong name on it, so we couldn't let her go home with it. We wanted to fix it. Her new one is in her binder today. I was like, oh, well, that makes me feel better because I don't have to sit there and just go along with the story. It's for real. She's like, her excitement is her excitement. It's not some other child's. So I tell my husband, I text it to my friend. I texted a screenshot of the conversation with the teacher to my friends, the ones that were just so excited. Oh, your baby stole the spotlight. And so I was like, and they were like, oh, dang. I'm telling you, everybody loved the Stole the Spotlight version better.
Okay, Mommy, I'm going to go in my room to make my class.
Okay, you go make your class.
After this class, I'm going to read it to them.
Okay. She's going to go make her class, and after her Pete the Cat book is dry, she's going to read it to them. Hey, Michelle. All right, so I've got 3 greens. So far, Michelle, if you're just now hopping on, oh, thank you. That's so sweet. That really helps. That really does. And it makes me so happy to see it being burst out into the interwebs. It really does. Because I feel like some of this stuff it's basic to me, but I feel like you may not have tried this yet. You may not have tinkered with your brushes in different ways and done different techniques with it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to break the seal off of it, to show you it's not scary, and to help you along with your painting journey. So far we've painted a background. We stenciled some snowflakes on there, just like we did with our Peekaboo Snowman. So if you're a part of Peekaboo Snowman, the tutorials are slowly going up. They should be up by the end of the day today. And you should be ready to go, because I'm telling you, he is precious in real life. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to hold off not putting him on my door. I'm like, just got home. So we painted our background, stenciled some snowflakes, and we just painted one lonely branch with a couple of sprigs. That's where our bristles are gonna, we just mapped out their homes. Okay. Our bristles are going to be in leaf green, Hauser medium, and light lime. Okay. So let's start with our darkest color. We don't need a lot. Actually, I'm just going to go ahead and put all three colors on my palette. I love this light lime. I use it a lot, and then I forget I have it, and then I'll remember, and then I'll use it a lot again. So it's kind of a staple in my paint caddy, but I forget I own it sometimes. I tend to go with pistachio mint. So, okay, we're going to do this a couple different ways. The easiest way is to use a round brush, or a liner brush. So you don't want it to be super big. This is kind of big. It will work, but it's kind of big. The other way you can do is to use a flat brush, kind of a smaller flat brush. Some people use big flat brushes, but that makes the pine needles really wide. I like mine to be kind of chiseled out. So I don't use anything bigger than about a 1/4 inch flat brush. This might be a 3/8. No, this is a half. This is about a half. So this is about 1/4 inch flat. This is about a 1/2 inch angle. You can use all different styles of brushes to get a pine needle. It just depends on what you're most comfortable with. We're going to use all these brushes, and I'm going to show you the different types of bristles. So here's a 1/4 inch. Here's a 1/4 inch half. All right, 1/4 inch half angle. So you can use a round brush. Let me see if I have a smaller round brush. Let's see. You want one with a really good pointy point. And that is technical term. A really good pointy point. A really small, not fluffy. You don't want it to be a fluffy point. You want it to kind of come to a nice clean point, almost like a liner brush. So this is actually a really cheap craft brush in Raylan's. I call my brush collection my arsenal sometimes. Something like that. This would be perfect. Okay. This right here is about as big as I would use. This is about a 6. Okay. About maybe a 4 or 6. I think it's a 6. That's about as big as I would use. This Christmas makes, this one makes me, this makes me want to make Christmas cards, right? Because of all the snowflakes and all that jazz. Now we're going to keep a wet brush. We don't want it to be dry, but we also don't want it to be sopping wet. We just want it to be wet. I'm going to take my leaf green, dip it in my paint. I am going to add a little bit of water to my brush. Not, like I said, not sopping wet. We just want like a little droplet of water. We want to break our paint down just a little bit, okay? So I'm just putting my brush in my wet paint, my watered down paint, not scripty watered down, just broken down, okay? Just a drop of water. And we want to see all the bristles. We want to see all the bristles. See how I can see all the bristles? All right, we're going to start down here. I'm just going to flick with very light pressure. This one's going to give you your biggest bristle, okay? These are your biggest, your fluffiest bristles, because this is a bigger round brush, okay? I would do this for our base, but I would bump down to a smaller brush as we build color. Okay. So there's our first step. I'm going to bump this down and I'm going to put this in the water because we don't need it right now. Now, I'm going to bump down in brush size. It's still a round brush. I'm going to pick up my Hauser medium. Remember, we just want a little bit of water to break down our paint. Okay. I'm going to add some paint. If your paint is kind of looking kind of gummy on your page and it's not really flowing, your water, you don't have it watered down enough. You really want it to be not running on your paint palette. You just want it to be not drying out, just kind of not a puddle, just broken down. I don't know how to explain the water consistency is the hardest thing. And so it takes a couple of layers to really get it. You want to work your way back onto the branch. You don't want to let it live on the very tip top of the branch. You want to work it back onto the branch. I wait till the second color. So normally my middle tone, always whenever I'm working with greens for greenery, I always work in threes. With a dirty brush, I'm going to pick up some of the light lime. Remember, add some water to it. Make it flowy, but not watery. We don't want our paint to move on our palette. We just want to break it down. And I'm going to start. We don't want to add too much of this light lime. We just want to give it some color. Okay. We just want to give it a little bit of light. Okay, and you can always, if you want to come back to your other colors, you don't want to return back to that bigger brush. As you're working on the topper layers, you want to keep with the smaller brush because you don't want anything to be too distracting. Okay. So there's our branch number 1. I think I'm going to add, oh, my nose is itching all of a sudden. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more light lime. Just a little bit because I covered it with that most recent layer. Pick up a little bit of this darker green to mix in with it just to get all the colors to flow together. Want little wispies that kind of peek in. There we go. Let's see. Can you zoom in a bit? I can try without the. There we go. How's that? So all I'm doing is I'm just kind of flicking my brush. I'm just kind of flicking my brush on the very tip top. Okay, I'm barely touching I almost said wood. I'm barely touching the paper. I'm just flicking just a little bit of, this brush is probably my favorite for doing these needles because as long as you have a stiff bristle, it will keep it shaped and it'll get a really good flick to it. Oh, gosh, my nose. I don't know what I ate. Normally something I eat will make my nose itch like I'm about to sneeze. But then I never sneeze. Okay, so another way that you can get these pine needles is an angle brush. I always make sure that it's not a very thick or wide angle brush. So there's our actual size of our angle brush. I'm going to look at the depth of bristle. This is perfect, okay? So we're going to do the same situation, same combination. In all actuality, I would probably do that same step with the bigger round brush for the beginning of this one to build up the background because you want there to be a good base of background, but I'm not going to do it with this one. We're just going, so again, making sure, this is the problem. Hold on. This is why I didn't get too terribly close, but maybe I can get a different angle. Okay. I just don't want the camera to flip. Okay, I don't think I will. If I hit the camera, just ignore me, okay? Okay, so for this one, I'm going to use an angle brush, and I'm going to flick again, okay? Using very light pressure. This one has a little bit more control, but the bristles are a little wide for my liking. I like that little tiny, I like more of a fluffy, bushy look that I can get by just individually throwing little bristles or little hairs. You could do this for hair too. Now, I got a question not too long ago. Can you use your rake brush? We went over what's called a rake brush over in the Paint Studio, the monthly membership, where I teach you how to use different, just like this, use different techniques to take your painting skills to the next level, or maybe a technique that you've never heard of and you're like, oh, I'm going to do that. We went over the rake brush, I want to say last month or August. And a rake brush is, or some people call it a wisp brush. Now, this is the medium color. Remember, we're building our color. We just don't want to build it too fast. Don't forget to kind of build it out, little short wispies that come out this way. I was asked, can you use your wisp brush for this? I wouldn't. This kind of has a cone shape, and the wisp brush does really good for things that are bigger shapes. This has a very particular flute or cone-like shape. I would not use my wisp or my rake brush to build a pine needle bristle. All right, so I am picking up a little bit of light lime. You look, I do not have a lot of paint on my brush. Okay, I've knocked most of it off. I have not cleaned my brush. I have added water. With the lightest, I am barely touching the paper. Remember, make sure you go back into the actual branch. Okay, so the branch Y's right there. Okay, it goes this way and this way. I am making sure that I am keeping the shape. Oops, I went flat on that. I can fix that. I can hide it. I'm keeping on the very chisel. That is the only thing, and that's barely touching. Like I am kind of, there's barely any paint transferring, but that makes a huge difference. I'm going to pick up a little bit of the medium. Again, I'm just building color. All these different colors create light and dimension. It's the same brush stroke, but just mixing them together makes it look like it's alive, and light is just bouncing off of it. Would y'all like to throw a couple of little, since we're not going to do the ornament on here like we would on the template, would you want to do a couple of Christmas lights? All right, here's that darker green. Again, just kind of making all these colors flow throughout the branch. Every layer, I'm just doing less and less of each color. All right, I'm going to clean my brush. So there's two different ways. Now, the same situation for the flat brush is for the angle brush. I prefer the angle brush over the flat brush. But again, you want to make sure it's short. It's short in width, but it's also not very pudgy or thick in bristles. You want a very nice, sleek, thin bristle for this, because the thinner the bristle, the thinner your pine needles, and the better they look. Hey, Rhonda. All right, so I'm gonna rotate this around because this branch is curving up a little bit. So I want to make sure that I get the right curvature to this. Okay, so we're at the same situation. Let's use this flat one. You want to make sure you dampen your brush and water this paint down. We're just breaking down the paint. We're not trying to get a soupy mess going on here. We just want the paint to not be so thick. Okay? All right, so we're just going to go whoop, whoop, whoop. So I'm working with the corner of this brush. I'm not really even working with the flat. I'm working with the corner. And remember, the tip of my bristles here, of my branches here, I'm working all the way back here. And I'm barely catching the paper. Light pressure. Do not feel like you always have to put 100% of that bristle down on your art piece. You do not have to always put 100% pressure. I am using literally 0.5%, not even a 1% pressure on this thing. I am using maybe 0.5. I am using more energy in my wrist flicking. This is more of a flick. And the only thing that's really catching is the really tip of the bristle, like this right here. None of this is catching. It's just these last few bristles that are catching. But the good thing about it is when I have a fully loaded brush, I can flip it over and get fresh paint without having to reload. All right, so there's layer number one. I'm not cleaning my brush. I'm just going to move over to my medium green, which is Hauser Medium. I'm going to add a little bit of water to break it down because remember, we want it to be a little scripty-like, but we don't want it to be a soup. I'm going to knock most of this paint off of my brush. I'm going to just dragging it on the edge of my palette. Now, I am adding a little bit of a curve to this one because, like I said, this branch is curving up, and I kind of want to simulate that. Not all pine needles are going perfectly straight. Some of them curve. Okay. Just catching up on comments. If y'all have any questions, just throw them in the comments. Have you ever painted pine needles before, or would you try it now that you've seen someone do it? Okay, now light line, which is the one that really just makes it pop. Now, I want you to see there's hardly any paint on this brush. I have drug the edge of my brush off on the edge of my palette. Every time I've added paint, I have knocked most of that paint off. I added it and knocked it off because I really don't want a lot of paint on my bristles. So we're just building the shape. Like I said, if you get a spot where you feel like, oh, that's a lot of bright, I really need to tone this down. Well, guess what? Let's just go back to our dark color. Make sure we have nice liquid, nice broken down, not thick paint, not fresh from the bottle paint. Just tone it down just a little bit. Do the same thing with our medium color. If it's starting to look like a muddy mess on your painting, that's just because you're working too wet on too wet. Let it completely dry, come back in and start adding the color that you think it's missing. But you really need to let it dry. Okay. So there's our different styles. That's working with 3 different types of brushes to get the same technique. Definitely want to try now. So Rhonda's like, I'm definitely going to try it now that I've seen it and it's not as scary as I thought. I'm bumping back over to my angle brush because it is my favorite. So we used a round brush, we've used an angle brush, and we used a flat brush. So that's the round, that's the angle, that's the flat. The trick is to make sure you don't have fluffy bristles. You want a really nice thin chisel. And it says, I'm going to give it a try. I hope you do. Thin bristles, smaller. It depends on how big your project is. This is a pretty small project. This is about an 8x5. Okay. I'm going to throw this in my journaling Bible, the one that we've been adding artwork to. This is going to get added to it just because I'm like, we might put it on the Christmas story. We might go put it where baby Jesus is. just because this reminds me of Christmas. But yeah, so my favorite is the angle brush. This is about a 1/4 inch angle. Okay, favorite, but it's the tip of it, the chisel of it is really thin. It's gonna be really easy to use. Michelle says I definitely need to try this. I hope you do. I hope you do. You know who I hope tries this? After all the requesting, I hope Melissa tries it. I'm gonna call her out. I hope Melissa tries it. Okay. I can't wait to see if you do try it. It doesn't matter who, and it doesn't matter if you think it looks good or not. Progress is progress. If you've never painted it before and you attempted it this time, that's progress. No, Picasso wasn't an amazing painter out the gate, and if he was, let me tell the lie. I don't think he was. That everybody had to start somewhere. So I'm just gonna pretend that there's a bristle kind of poking in right here. Remember, we want to keep super light pressure and really thin paint. We do not want a gloopy, muddy mess on our brush. That's just going to create a gloopy, muddy mess on our paper or our wood. So about every third brush stroke is catching the paper. Every time you see my hand move, that doesn't mean there's paint actually transferring. Okay. That just means I attempted and it didn't catch. And that's because that's how close I'm getting to the paper. You're going to get some if we have any. We should. So if you see.
Yes, we do.
There we go. All right, moving on to the next color. Remember our medium, our Hauser medium. So we're using leaf green, Hauser medium, and light lime. That light lime is the one that's really contrasting, okay? And that's the one that's really, honestly, bringing this to life. The greens are just giving it a nice little base, a firm foundation, as I like to say. It's giving it a firm foundation to build off of, but that light lime is the one that's really bringing it to life. The light lime is making the other greens actually show up, because if you see, these greens don't really show up very well on this gray, but once I throw that light lime, all of a sudden you start seeing green, right? So let's just, thought we were going to have bowls flying everywhere. She's been very Miss Independent lately, and I'm trying to give her the opportunity to be so, but not at the expense of my favorite dishes. I found one the other day. I've had these for years, and they're just Dollar Tree. They're nothing fancy. Dollar Tree one day had navy blue bowls, and I just fell in love with them. And so I bought a whole serving set of these navy blue, what I call a cereal bowl. Big old bowl, right? And so, but I finally, the boys do the dishes. And so one of the boys, or the dishwasher itself, chipped one of my blue bowls, and I'm really sad about it. And if you notice, I'm not washing my brush in between colors. I'm just adding the next color on, but if I need to add water to that color, that I only pick up a little bit of water from my paint water, but I'm not washing my brush. Okay, here's that light line. Watch all this green just start popping. Sorry, my camera is very close to my work. I'm trying to get y'all a really good angle. So, see, I got a good bit. I'm going to cover that up. So watch. When I say, if you get a spot where you're just like, ooh, that's a lot of one color in one spot, we can camouflage it, okay? So let's get the rest of our light lime on here. I did clean it this time. It was getting goopy. I'm going to turn it down, please. She's in there she gets to watch a movie when she gets off the bus, but I told her she could paint with me until she was done painting with me. And then she could start a movie then. Because by the time I get done painting, I'm going to be cooking dinner anyway, so. See, toned it right down. And then I'm going to go back in with my darker color and break it up even more. Ah, getting caught up in my light. There we go. So, like I told you, we would do some peekaboo. We're going to do some peekaboo. So that looks like a tree branch that's just popping in out of nowhere. That's an actual tree branch. I'm going to do another peekaboo, probably going this way. Probably pretending coming out like it's coming off of this, actually. Let's do that. So let's get our little leaf green. Okay. How are we doing so far? Is it clicking? Are you picking up what I'm putting down? Is it starting to look a little easier? Okay. Now I'm going away from my body this time. This may be a more comfortable position for you. Just whatever you do, you want the toe. So I have the toe of my angle brush. So the toe is this longer part over here. I have that. That's what's flicking, okay? That's what's creating this nice chiseled point. And it's barely catching. I prefer to work towards myself, but some people like to work away from themselves. And so this right here is just another angle that you can come in at it. I'm loading my brush, raking most of that paint off. We're just going to pretend that this is just an extension of this branch, but its little twig is way back here. So I like to do this technique after I've reshaped some of my angle brushes. I normally knock my brushes out of shape. Pretty bad doing this technique. And this one will be knocked out of shape. I'll have to reshape it. And all you have to do to reshape a brush is I throw a small little glass of water I usually use a coffee mug, in the microwave for 2 minutes, or, just until it's boiling hot. I like to get it boiling hot. Hot enough that I can't touch it with my bare hand, but boiling hot. And then I just dip my brush in the boiling hot water and just squeegee it out. That's all I do. And I lay it flat to dry, and that usually gets my bristles right back at attention. Okay, going to this Limelight. Like I said, I'm not washing my brush, so this Limelight isn't going on true. Let me show you what the color is. So there's the Limelight fresh from the bottle. This is the Limelight that is being created as I pick and I scrape off. Okay. If I need to add a little bit of water, I add a little bit of water. I scrape off. Okay. I'm trying not to let any buildup be created on my brush. I want just little wispies to be created. Okay. Let's see, that's, like I said, I always go back in with my foundation colors and add those on top of that lightest color, because sometimes that lightest color can be very striking. We want to tone it down just a little bit. So I'll go back in with just a couple of brushes of those other colors, just to kind of break up the strikingness, the very catch your eye-ness of the other, that bright color, because it is very much contrasting to the original green that we laid down. The greens are dark, And that light lime, it's pretty bright. Okay, so there we go. It's cool how adding that color makes your eyes see the darker ones. It is. And it's kind of it's contrast. I know you can't see my face. I'm sorry. You've got to see the contrast. If you don't put that light in there, there's nothing for the darker to contrast with. And so you've got dark background, dark greens on top of that, dark brown on top of that. There's nothing for your eye to kind of balance it out. As soon as you put that light color on there, all of a sudden it starts balancing out. The same thing with, remember when we put a little bit of light buttermilk on top of our branch? It was like all of a sudden we saw the branch. Before we did that, we saw a little bit of brown, but we really didn't see brown. So that light color creates contrast. It really, that was helpful for me to get a better idea of how much paint is left on the brush. Hardly any, Anna. There's hardly any paint left on this brush. Okay, so I just dipped it. So this is before I even scraped it. Okay, so see all that buildup right there? See that paint? See that paint? That one's pretty scraped off, but there's still a good bit of paint. I'm going to scrape. See how all that buildup is gone? That's giving me just those last 3 bristles. I know you can't really see my brush strokes, but that's giving me just those last 3 bristles to be loaded enough with paint to not overpower and to get a nice chisel look. Remember, we're working with the chisel of a brush. We're not working with the whole brush itself. We're working with the chisel, okay? So you really don't want to be loaded down with paint because then you're working with the whole brush. You really want the edge of that chisel to not be overpowered by paint or water. It's really a ratio thing. I'm going to give just a couple of peekaboo, just a few little peekaboos, just the very tip, of a branch. Nothing crazy. It's kind of naked down here. It's kind of naked. So we don't want them to intersect or anything. I just don't want it to. See, the paint is drying out. And it's not really the paint drying out. The water is evaporating. So I want to make sure I have plenty of water to not make it soupy. Okay, here's that medium color. Make sure I start back here on the painter's tape. That way it seamlessly blends into the background. Now here's a little bit of that light lime. That one that y'all say really makes it pop. A little bit of that light lime. And remember, the lightest little bit of pressure. Okay, good. Remember to go back to your original colors, your darker greens, just to tone them down, okay? That light lime can be a little startling to the eye. That medium Hauser. We're almost done. We are almost done. So do y'all have any questions? Like, is there anything that I can kind of clarify? Like I said, this technique, let me show you the design because I know a lot of, just a little bit more, okay? This is the design that we're kind of demonstrating. This bristle hook right here, that's what we're doing here, okay? No hot sauce. Oh, no hot sauce. I don't want you getting down the hot sauce without help, okay? So mommy's almost done. She is about to knock out a whole bag of Doritos. So here is our base for our
Are those enough?
yes, that's enough.
That's so many.
Yeah, it is so many. I'm glad you think that's so many. So we've got our background base coated with one color. Then we stenciled using just a show off stencil from Hobby Lobby. Then we put in a branch that kind of gave us the map of where the majority of our bristles were going to live. And then we painted our bristles using a round brush, an angle brush, and a flat brush. Flat brush is probably my least favorite just because the flat brushes, it's kind of harder to maneuver the very tip of that brush without accidentally bumping the entire chisel of the brush. Then it would the round brush would come into a close second. Still not my favorite, but it gets the job done. And if you can keep your brush really, really, really thin, you don't want a really wide round brush. You really want like a 2 or a 4, no bigger than a 6. Okay. But my favorite is the just the very tiptoe of an angle brush. Very tiptoe of an angle brush. So if you have any questions on how to paint pine needles or what else you can do with them, I would love to answer your questions. You can add some holly berries to this. You can add some Christmas lights to this. If you'd like to add some Christmas lights, we could do that real quick. Actually, let's add some holly berries. We'll do Christmas lights on another day because I have a really fun idea for Christmas lights. Let's do some holly berries. So 2 ways I like to do holly berries. You can do the cheat sheet, get a polka dot dauber or something round and just do like a stamp. Or you can just take a small flat brush. So let me take our little flat brush that we were using. This one may be too small. Let me see. No, this one might be fine. Let's do Santa Red. Do I have Santa Red out? I may not. No, I was a good girl and I put it up. That's True Red. It's going to be too bright. Santa Red. It's my favorite red. All right, Santa Red. All right. We're not going to water this down. We're just going to load our brush up. Okay, let's pick a couple spots. I'm going to do a half circle and close the circle. Okay. Kind of go up a little bit, go half circle, then close the circle. Flat brush is the easiest way to do a polka dot. All right. Half circle, close the circle. Super duper simple. Thank you, Pam. This one's fun. This is a good, it's not just Christmas. You can use this in winter. You can use this in winter designs. See, we're going to do a circle there. Let's do, these are just like little half circles. They just kind of disappear off of the page. Yeah. Just kind of disappear off the page. We want to do an odd number. Actually, that's 3. That gives us 3. Gives us a nice even. You want to do things in odd. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That one really doesn't count. It's just a little peekaboo of one. But then we got a pretend cluster up here. We'll put the shadow of another one up there. We've got a pretend cluster up here, a cluster here, and the beginning of a cluster over here. So we've got, go ahead and put a second one over here. Now, to make these pop, all you would do is you would take a pink, a white, light buttermilk is my favorite when not wanting to go super pink. I don't really like pink to be what I highlight with red. I like to just take a little bit of light buttermilk and let it create its own pink. So I've got my brush. Hold on 1 second. I'm trying to get it nice and. So I've got a little bit of light buttermilk on my red brush. I did not wash my brush. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a highlight to the outside of my berry. Okay. Do that. Like I said, just a little bit of a highlight to the outside of my berry. Come over here. It makes it look like they're a little frosty and highlighted. Highlighted? Is that a word? Go. And there we go. So that finishes off our little background. So let's see what it looks like as a whole. Now, what I would do is I do intend to use this in my journaling Bible, the one that we've been adding artwork to. I don't have it over here. It's way over there. I do intend to, I think I'm going to put it somewhere in Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, where Jesus is born. And I don't know, I haven't fully decided on what I'm going to put on it yet. But I felt like, since this is kind of Christmassy, even though technically Jesus was not born during Christmas, we all know that, right? But it don't hurt nothing. It don't hurt nothing to put this in well, peel up. So I want to be careful on the edge of this paper. I don't want to rip the corner of my page. Ooh, look how crisp and clean that. This is why I like to use painter's tape, because if I'm going to display it, I want it to have a nice clean look. Nice clean crisp look, even if they're not perfectly straight lines, which mine should be, or straight enough. Move that out of the way. Now I have that where I can just kind of fold it into my Bible, and I can do some journaling on the back. So the way I've been using this is I've been taking some washi tape, and I have been laying it down on the page that I want to add it to. And instead of just coloring inside my Bible, I have been adding these, and I can flip this open as if it was like a leaflet. Oh no, I'm being spammed. Y'all hold on one second. Y'all do not, let's block user. Ugh. Did y'all see that? That was awful. I don't even know who that was. I don't like that. That almost looked like, I didn't like that at all. I'm sorry. That's the first time that's ever happened to me. I hear about people getting spammers all the time, and it's never happened to me. So now I guess I can't say that. Like I get my husband trolling me all the time. He'll hop on and start talking about my hands and how my hands look scrumptious, or he'll try to make it look like a vulgar comment, but he's really not. He's just messing with us. But that was awful. Okay. So sorry. Went on tangent here. So this right here is just going to get added to my journaling Bible. And like I said, I'm going to take some washi tape and tape it to the edge of a Bible page that I intend to have it. And that way I'm able to do some journaling on the back. Yeah. So once I add it to the Bible, I will take a picture and I'll share it with y'all. But that, in a nutshell, is how you do pine needles. It's super simple. You just have to make sure you are using the tiniest bit of paint, the tiniest bit of water, and the very tip of a very thin, chiseled brush. And like I said, my favorite brush would be an angle brush, but you can use a round, a flat, or an angle. So until next time, I cannot wait to hang with you again. I'll see you later. Bye.